Good evening. I am thrilled to welcome you to the Akron Symphony Orchestra's 2021 Interlude Gala. As your host this evening, I am excited to share some wonderful conversations and beautiful music together with you. The past year has been a challenge for all of us as a community. Individually, we have all adapted to new ways of working, maintaining our connections with our family and friends, discovering new methods of communicating, and enriching our lives with those things that we hold most dear. As an orchestra, it has obviously been impossible to gather as a large group and provide you with the symphony's typical community-based collaborative events. Undaunted, however, the orchestra adapted to these changing times, and we are eager to share a number of our stories with you this evening. This season and all of the symphony's programming would not be possible without the overwhelming generosity of our friends. Through your gifts, the orchestra has been able to continue to perform small live concerts, produce over 100 educational videos, launch a podcast channel with 3 new programs, and keep the lights on through these challenging times. As we will learn throughout our time together this evening, your support of the orchestra has played a vital role in bringing beautiful music to our community during a time when it was needed the most. we're here with Paul Jarrett, Executive Director of the Akron Symphony Orchestra, and Rob Kistler, Principal Percussionist and Chair of the Orchestra Committee. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
What an exciting start to a great evening that we're all looking forward to. This has been quite an interesting year for the both of you. You had to work very closely together to ensure the health of the organization, but also to ensure that the musicians were able to continue to work. So Rob, tell us a little bit about how challenging this year has been for you as a musician.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, we're challenged with the same thing that everyone in the world's been challenged with, financial problems, lack of work, worrying about our health, both physical and mental health. And, this pandemic has really leveled the playing field, affecting everyone adversely. So when you asked about like musicians specifically what we're facing, it's kind of like we can't exclude ourselves from the pain that everyone else is feeling. We hope things will come back to what they were, because we love playing great orchestral music and we love playing with an audience and all the great things that happen. But I think one of the scariest things for musicians is we don't know what it's going to look like after this. Like all the work opportunities we had and all the environments and friends and social aspects we had, it's all going to change, and that's for everyone in every industry. But I feel like freelance musician-wise, it's very scary because a lot of organizations are not doing well. I'm not saying we're doing fantastic, but we're working together, which is phenomenal. So thank you for just helping us curate this awesome environment that we're actually working together and doing what's best for our Northeast Akron community. And I think what's really helped us as musicians get through this season in the Akron Symphony Orchestra is that there is a good purpose involved where we're just saying thank you and giving back to the community that supported us a bunch. But yeah, just finding a new sense of purpose and whatever directions we want to kind of go into, that's been quite a challenge for musicians and people in the arts.
Yeah. So Paul, I'm sure as an organization you share some of those same sentiments. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the challenges that the organization has faced during this?
Yeah, and to echo Rob's point, we all face the same challenges. So we're not only worrying about the organization itself, but worrying about the health of our friends and family, et cetera, at the same time. So as this was all unfolding and we were performing concerts here, and then all of a sudden it was very clear that we were not going to be able to do so, we started to think about, all right, well, how do we pivot? How do we make this something that doesn't cause us to lose sight of what it is that we're here to do? So one of the challenges that the organization faced was, how do we continue to fulfill our mission just through different means? We weren't going to be able to return here to EJ to do large-scale concerts. I remember closing the office for 2 weeks. I think we all went through that same thing of like, we're going to go home for 2 weeks and then we'll kind of inch our way back. And for the most of us, none of us have been back there, and certainly we haven't been in this hall for over a year at this point. So we started to look at, how do we continue to accomplish our mission? How do we continue to engage in the community and provide the community the services that we believe are important during this period of time? And I think, working together, we were able to come up with what we did this year, which was the Interlude season.
So welcome to our two maestros, Christopher Wilkins, musical director, and Jonathan Turner, choir master for Gospel Meets Symphony. So great to see you both this evening, gentlemen.
Likewise, Theresa. Thank you.
So I want to start by asking you, what are you both up to right now? Now, Jonathan, will Gospel Meets Symphony take place in some type of form this year?
Absolutely. We are in full swing at this moment. We have been rehearsing over Zoom. We have been safely going to one another's homes to kind of gather these recordings to make certain that we can provide great quality musical content to kind of preserve the rich heritage that is Gospel Meets Symphony here in the community.
Yeah, we're getting very busy at the moment. We've sort of had these two inflection points where we moved from all the outdoor community performances that we did in the summer and the fall to indoor programming, which turned virtual. And now we're coming out of that again and planning for some very exciting things to happen this summer. As Jonathan mentioned, Gospel Meets Symphony is just underway now. Then the chorus will have its season, and they'll be recording. The current plan is that they're recording from their cars in parking lots. So that's a very interesting technology. But we're really excited and gearing up for an active summer.
So now, Chris, I've heard you say that this year has been about opening up access to the orchestra, which seems a little bit ironic considering how much we've had to shut things down. So can you elaborate a little bit more about what you mean?
Well, first in a physical sense, in that we've gotten out of our main venue and into the community. And as a result, we've really opened up new partnerships, new relationships with new organizations in new venues and connecting with new audiences. So that's been wonderful, and that's something that we intend to continue now forever. But I also mean openness in a more general artistic sense. This year has also been very much about coming to terms with racial and equity issues. Akron Symphony has always been involved in those issues, and certainly Gospel Meets Symphony has been our flagship enterprise, bringing the whole community together. But we've still been asking ourselves in terms of access, access for whom? And so this year, a lot of the emphasis has been on representing Black composers and Black artists. Our 14-episode podcast series with Rita Dove was just extraordinary, partly because she's such an Akron luminary, having won the Pulitzer Prize and served as the U.S. Poet Laureate, but also specifically because of the work that she wrote about a Black composer that none of us had heard of really before she wrote her amazing book of poetry called Sonata Melodica. The composer George Bridgetower, a Black virtuoso violinist, friend of Beethoven. But there's another aspect. I want to bring Jonathan into this conversation a little bit about openness, because the classical music tradition has the reputation of being very staid, where access for the audience means you know your place. You sit there on your hands and don't budge and don't move and don't make a sound. And the tradition, certainly in the Black church, is almost the opposite of that in terms of involvement and participation. And on our one of our recent podcasts on the spirituals, Jonathan, you told a story that I found very moving about your involvement with a nonprofit that you serve. Could you just tell us a little bit about that and the lessons that might be there for Akron Symphony and classical music?
Absolutely. One thing that I love about having the privilege of being a part of gospel music is that it is so very inviting. Whether you know the words, whether you are familiar with that background or tradition, there's something so inviting and involving and infectious about gospel music that you just kind of have to participate. It kind of demands you to clap and sway and move. It's just that type of music. I have the privilege of sitting on the board for the Autism Society of Greater Akron. And one of the things that we tried, a partnership that we are merging, is to invite those families with children and persons in their families that are living with autism to be a part of Gospel Meets Symphony. Bringing someone to who is living with autism to a show where there are lights and sounds could be maybe not necessarily the greatest experience for that person that is living with autism, simply because they are overstimulated by light and by sound and by all of the people and just by a number of different variables. And so there may be outbursts and there may be clapping or speaking that in a more classical context may not be necessarily acceptable. But in the gospel tradition, they would be right at home. And so I felt this is the perfect opportunity to merge yet another nonprofit here in the city of Akron to bring our music to a brand new demographic that has nothing necessarily to do with race or ethnicity, but people who are differently abled than us, and allow them to share into this great music that we provide.
It's beautiful.
That's pretty exciting. It sounds like you guys have done some fantastic work that includes everyone. There's a little bit of something for everyone who wants to enjoy the symphony at some point, right? Yeah,
Indeed.
Sounds good. So tell me, what do we have to look forward to in the coming months?
Well, the Akron Symphony is going to be more active this summer than it's ever been, or certainly in recent memory. We're going to take advantage of the summertime to perform a lot outdoors. I think people will be excited to come hear us and feel comfortable knowing that they're out of doors. And undoubtedly, for that reason, we'll be playing for many folks who've never heard us before, and I'm thrilled about that. It also gives us a chance, again, to partner with some organizations that we've had relationships with, but never to this extent. So the entire orchestra is going to be involved in our summer plans, aside from the Parks concerts, which we'll do in August, as we've done now for many, many years running. On June 5th, so not so long from now, we'll be at Lock 3. And that will not be a 4th of July kind of occasion. It will be a chance for our string orchestra to do something amazing and our winds and brass and percussion to do something amazing. Then on July 7th, we'll be at Stan Hewitt Hall and Gardens. And on July 9th, Sunday, at Hale Farm and Village. So the repertoire will be extremely eclectic, again, with a strong representation of composers that you might not normally find on a classical concert, which gives us a great stylistic variety and I think helps keep these programs very appealing in the way that we've talked about. So we're excited about all of that.
Well, I just want to say thanks to you both for the incredible work you continue to do. I know on behalf of all of the orchestra watchers and people who support you that we're thrilled about all of the great things that are coming up. So thank you again for sharing all this great information with us this evening, and please enjoy the rest of the event.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this evening's celebration of the Akron Symphony Orchestra. My name is Tallie Brunfelt, and I'm proud to have had the opportunity to be the concertmaster of this amazing orchestra since 2017. It's hard to believe that we haven't played together for over a year now, and I look forward to a time soon when we'll be able to come together in person again. Although it has been a challenging time for performing arts organizations around the world, Paul Jarrett and the entire Akron Symphony team have done incredible work to adapt in this difficult time. In addition to creating new and exciting ways to engage the Akron community, the organization's leadership has also been able to continue supporting its musicians. And that's thanks, in large part, to the generosity of many of you joining us this evening. I have been grateful for the recording projects that I've been able to contribute to the ASO's Interlude season, including a couple of pieces that were featured in the podcast Unorchestrated, created by Maestro Christopher Wilkins. I mention that particular project because the piece that I'm going to play today was written by composer Ivan Yarnovich, a violinist who was one of George Bridgetower's teachers in London at the end of the 18th century. For those of you who haven't heard the podcast, George Bridgetower was the Afro-European violin virtuoso for whom Beethoven originally composed his Kreutzer Sonata, which is arguably the most well-known and the most difficult of his sonatas for violin and piano. You can hear much more about this fascinating story and a variety of other interesting topics in Maestro Wilkins' Unorchestrated podcast, and I really encourage you to check it out. In the meantime, thank you again for joining us tonight and for your support of this organization that plays such a vital role in the Akron community. And now, I'm going to play for you the second and third movements of Ivan Yarnovich's Duo for Two Violins in D major.
That's fantastic. So now you both created what you call the Interlude season. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit more about how that came together and what does it really mean?
When Rob and I first started talking, we came together. It's like, all right, here are the musicians, here's the staff. What can we do to ensure that we're going to be able to continue to provide music to the community in some meaningful sort of way? And I remember early on we started to have some conversations about musicians playing out in small ensembles. Are there ways that we could do that in places where it's safe to do so? We are a full orchestra. We are used to having 83 people on stage playing a large Mahler symphony or playing a Mozart piano concerto or something like that. So how do we bring that type of thing to a scale that still impacts the community in a way, still engages in the community in a way, and is able to still accomplish our mission? At the same time, what was important is continuing to make sure that our musicians could earn a living. And I think that was something that we worked on really hard. If you want to talk about that part a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we are very thankful and grateful for our staff and our board and our community for continuing to support us. And I'm just very glad that our presence in the community was well received. And I think that's evident by the fact that we keep coming up with new activities to engage with the community, and places are asking us back to play, and other new places are offering their locations to us, and it's nice to know that classical music is a phenomenal product. It's really beautiful art, and like a lot of businesses in general, the ones that got through this pandemic pivoted to direct to consumer, right? So we didn't have the production to put on a hall, have people come to an audience, sell tickets. We just brought our music and put it in a zoo, or put it at the farm, or put it at Stan Hewitt for the people. And I think what's hard to argue against is classical music makes everything better. Every environment that we're in, you add like a string quartet, a brass ensemble, it's just going to make the environment a lot better. And one thing we like about providing music is just it changes everyone's mood like in an instant. If you're having a bad day, you pop on your favorite song, you can change your mood for that instant very, very quickly. And to have that ability and give that power to the people, is really great to do that. And to know that we had the support of our board and staff to see like that's worth value, both artistically and financially. It meant a lot to us to come to an agreement to fund our musicians and create and find meaningful work to give to the community. So
that meaningful work, we've had this bucket list of items that we wanted to do for years of little places we'd like to play, ensembles we'd like to send out, digital content we'd like to create. So this was just a huge opportunity when we saw, okay, we're not going to be able to return to EJ and do these large concerts. So let's start looking at these other things that we've always wanted to do. We launched this podcast series, for example, which took on a life of its own to the point now where we have our own podcast network with 3 independent programs. That's been fantastic, and I know it's keeping Tom Moore, our Director of Marketing, completely busy. He's opened up a whole new set of skills. That's been great for him. When this became clear that we weren't going to be able to be here, I turned to some of our partners in the community, the Food Bank, Stan Hewitt, the Art Museum, and others, and said, we can't perform anymore. Would you be willing to host us? And they opened their doors to us and allowed us to come into their space and be with their patrons and with their people. And that's been really fantastic. And even just some outside of the box things where we partnered with Earthquaker Devices. They make these guitar effects pedals, and now we've got musicians who are typically playing on a violin or an upright bass, playing through these pedals and creating a whole new sound world and a whole new style of music. It's leading to a concert we'll be doing in the near future featuring a partnership with the Akron Symphony Orchestra and Earthquaker. It's just opened all kinds of doors for us in the community that we're really excited about.
My name is Robert Kistler, and I'm the principal percussionist with the Akron Symphony Orchestra.
Now, during a typical Akron Symphony Gala, Raise the Paddle is one of the most exciting moments of the live auction. For the Interlude Gala, you can help provide support online through the virtual Raise the Paddle. Simply go to the event website, rsabid.com, enter code 44308, and view the auction catalog. With these flexible donation packages, you can select any donation amount starting from just $1. Donors that give $200 or more will receive recognition and published acknowledgments. Now, along the same lines, when you talk about opportunities, I am sure that there were many positives and new opportunities for musicians that arose this year. So can you talk a little bit about some of those things? And can you tell us just what did you do when you couldn't rehearse or do concerts? Yeah.
I don't want to discount all the hardships everyone's felt, musicians, staff, just everyone in the world. But there were some positives, and I would love to focus on them now. Yeah, right? So, just the ability, like Paul said, to develop all of these relationships with organizations in our area has been great. We've always wanted to reach out to the museum and Hale Farm and other venues, create a virtual footprint in the area so we can, reach the Akron School of the Arts and have a career day to talk to their students directly, talk to our Akron Youth Symphony. And I know just me and a lot of my colleagues, if we didn't know Zoom before the pandemic, we are experts in it now of how to change the audio settings so it works for lessons. So, which is good moving forward, because one of the things that would happen is that, we would go on the road out of town for another gig, and we would not be able to teach our students for that week because at that time, virtual lessons weren't pragmatic, they weren't valued, they weren't realistic. But now that's how you do things. And for me, I see my students progressing. It doesn't replace the value of live lessons, but you can still teach a lot through it. And I think everyone talking to other people for suggestions and help and any other audio techniques has been super helpful. So to sum it up, like just the virtual ability that we've created during this has been pretty phenomenal, which I like.
Rob alluded to the youth orchestra, and one of the things that's been really fantastic through this virtual new medium that we have, first of all, our board and committee meeting attendance has been through the roof. We've had the best attendance for our board meetings that we've ever had.
Easy access.
When people can just stay wherever they are and have that meeting. But alluding to the youth orchestra, one of the things I'm most excited about this year is that all of our ensembles were able to continue in some way this year. Both of our choruses continued to meet and rehearse in some fashion and create some type of tangible performance opportunities for themselves. Our youth orchestra had virtual rehearsals, but also had these wonderful seminars with professional musicians of the orchestra where they were able to get career advice and lesson advice and audition advice that I think we normally wouldn't have. But again, bucket list items that we've always thought, oh, that would be really nice, but now we've been able to create that. Our Symphony Guild has continued to fundraise on our behalf. They're still planning an event in May, and they're still planning, ideally, to hold a fundraising event in the summer. So all of the components that make up the whole Akron Symphony Orchestra family have continued to move forward in some way this year. I think that's been really exciting.
And speaking of moving forward, Paul, do you see parts of the interlude season remaining integrated into your programming?
Yeah, I think we've talked about that. About what this cat's out of the bag at this point. Once Stan Hewitt opened itself up to us and allowed our musicians to perform in that classic music room. First of all, we would put that opportunity out to the players, and it was the first thing that people would sign up for. I want to play at Stan Hewitt, to the point where we couldn't accommodate. We had more musicians than we had dates for. But that's something that now we're working on. How do we continue that? Because that wasn't something we had a blueprint for before this year. It wasn't built into the budget. It wasn't built into the way that we typically work. So I think a lot of what we're doing, the digital content, the professional development, these small performances in the community, I'm so excited about continuing these.
Yeah. I think one of the great things about this interlude season is that it came to be successful. I thought about this, in retrospect, and I came up with 3 things that made it successful: the vision, the flexibility, and the transparency. Right. And so vision, Paul came up to us. He went to the board, us being the musicians, and he presented this is what I want the season to look like. We want a gift to the community, bring music to the people, because we can and people want it, right? And everyone was on board, and we're like, okay, we'll figure out how to make it work. We will, because the vision was great. Excuse me. Transparency. The only way we could make this work is if we were honest with each other. And Paul, my wife is getting jealous. I was calling you more than I was talking to her at the beginning of this whole thing, man. It's like 6 a.m. Paul, what's going on? But yeah, the whole time we listened to each other, we talked to each other. There was a list of priorities, there was a give and take, and there was some risk involved, like making sure that our musicians did participate. And the fact that Paul just said that we had more musicians wanting to play live than opportunities were. It was great for both of us, because it meant that the opportunities they're finding us, people wanted to do, and it meant that musicians do want to play live.
So overall, do each of you feel there is a silver lining to this unusual year? And what are you looking forward to the most in the upcoming season?
The biggest silver lining I have is the fact that we're going to reemerge from this as an enhanced organization. We are still going to perform large-scale concerts here at E.J. Thomas Hall, but that will be a major component of what we do. It won't be all that we do. There are all kinds of new ways for us to engage in the community. So I'm looking forward to seeing that continue to develop and grow, and see the new partnerships and new musical opportunities and new people that engage in music in a new way.
And we certainly can't wait to hear it live. Thank you both so much for this great conversation, and let's look forward to seeing the rest of the evening.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Miller, and I'm a cellist with the Akron Symphony.
Hi, I'm Brian. I'm a bass player with the Akron Symphony, and we are going to do the first movement of Rossini's Duetto for cello and bass.
Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. We have been so thrilled to share our music with you, and we cannot thank you enough for your continued support of your Akron Symphony Orchestra. The musicians are just as eager to start playing as a full group as you are to hear them play, and we cannot wait to do this together very soon. To stay informed about our upcoming summer and fall programming, you can visit our website, akronsymphony.org, follow us on social media, and sign up for our email list. On behalf of the Akron Symphony Board of Trustees, the staff, and musicians, thank you for joining us this evening and for your continued generosity toward these fantastic programs. Have a wonderful evening.